you are welcome to another edition of Situation Room State of the Nation podcast. Today, we are at the launch of our credibility threshold document for the 2027 general elections. It's a document that outlines actionable points for us to be able to hold stakeholders accountable on what constitutes free, fair, and credible elections. On this episode with me is a political activist and a voice for credible elections in Nigeria. I have with me Idris Zekeri.
Thank you so much. An absolute delight to share this space with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being here, Idris.
Thank you.
So we're just going to talk about very general things about election reforms and, get your view on what you think we should do better as Nigerians for elections. So first of all, what inspired you to start advocating for electoral reforms?
That's a good question. Anybody who is thinking, anybody in his faculties in this country today, you take a look at the quality and kind of life that the average Nigerian is living, and you realize that it starts and ends with the quality of leadership that the country has. And the quality of the leadership that the country has is a product of, not a byproduct, it's the chief product of our electoral system. You must begin to pay attention to the kind of elections, the credibility of the elections, I always call it viability, because any election that does not serve this purpose is not a viable election, it's a waste of money. So that is why we are now paying a lot more attention, especially after the 2023 election. We are now paying a lot more attention to how the process that brings up our leaders. If we are able to get this process right, and we are still having the kind of results we are having now, it then means that it is no longer the fault. You no longer have to cry. You cannot cry more than the bereaved. It then means the people have decided that this is the kind of leaders they can live with. If we get the election right, we can now go back to begin to educate the people that you don't need to take money to vote a candidate. If you vote the right candidate, you will not even need to take money from any other person again for the rest of your life, because the country has enough to take care of its people. This is the underlying principle of my interest in us having electoral reforms.
I totally agree with you, because how leaders emerge also speak to the legality of the legality of their leadership and their being our political leaders.
Absolutely. So, there is winning election. There is legitimacy in office.
Exactly.
So when you win election and you won it fraudulently, you may have won an election, but you don't have a legitimate government.
I think that's the right word, legitimacy. So since you started this advocating for electoral reforms, what challenges have you faced?
Ignored by authorities, ignorance of the people. Those are the two biggest challenges that I have faced, and I believe any other person in this sphere of conversation is facing. Those who can make the changes happen, those who occupy position of authorities, are playing dumb.
They don't engage.
They don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like I said in the previous conversation in another in a TV station, you can wake a man who is sleeping, but you cannot wake a man who is pretending
to be asleep.
So the people who have the power are deliberately pretending that they don't understand that this system is not answering the fundamentals of a free, fair, and credible elections. Ignorance on the side of the people. There are people in this country, I dare to say, the majority of the people in this country still believe that election is not their business. We have 90 million registered voters, about that number. Only about 8-something million elected the president from 90 million. If we stretch it, we have about 230 million people. Less than 20 million or 25 million participated in an election.
Yeah.
The single most important decision in your life. I mean, maybe not in your personal life, because that will be who you choose as husband and wife.
But when you break it down it's scary. But it also speaks to how our civic space in Nigeria is. A lot of people don't feel that they should advocate for change. And I don't blame them. It's the way the system is. Once you try to rise up in terms of making changes, people see you as a troublemaker. True. People feel it's not their business and they just say, oh, what's wrong with this person and things like that.
When they arrest you, they'll say, I don't mind him, he talks too much. We know he will get into trouble the way he was. In fact, your parents will call you.
Yeah, exactly. Your parents will call you.
We started having this conversation much earlier. Parents will call me and say, well, you are not the one that will solve Nigeria's problem. But you have to, you see, you now have to deal with a lot more than even the government.
So the culture in Nigeria is that of silence or obedience, or this person is my brother, I don't need to question, which is the general problem with Nigeria. And then when you start engaging with people, they're not objective because they feel there's one sort of affinity.
So when a man is arrested for corruption, the first question you ask is, where is he from?
Exactly.
If he's from your village, then he's really not corrupt. Maybe they are framing him. But if from another part of the country, then it should be is it the children of the Jews, a bit those in Jesus' time? They crucify him.
Well, we can't stop the conversation, and these are things that we have to continue speaking on. And so, looking ahead as we head to 2027, what will be the most critical reform you want to see in our electoral process?
Compulsory electronic transmission of results.
Yeah.
I'll put a backstory to this. I don't pretend to be a high flyer. I mean, I'm a street boy. I mean, I take information from the streets, and I'll say it that way. I grew up in a farm country. There are laws that set up INEC. There are electoral laws that are used to conduct our elections. And INEC now sets its own guidelines that will guide it to conduct an election. INEC will act in breach of its guidelines. There are penalties for breaching certain rules. I think I read somewhere that if you do not transmit electronic results from your unit electronically, there is a fine. You can either go to 6 months in prison or you pay a certain fine.
Yeah.
So if we use that, if you add all the corpers that conducted elections as PUs, you add all the SPUs, you add all INEC, staff of INEC and everybody, you see how much they are owing us now because none of them transmitted elections electronically, election result electronically. So for me, I think that is a step forward. It might not be the biggest game changer, but it is a step forward.
I agree.
Electronic transmission of results.
I agree with you. And I think the courts also have a role to play here because in interpreting the acts, you also have to be a bit reformative. What are the things that will bring change to our society? And I think sometimes interpretation matters, and what judgments arise from election petitions and all of that. So we're going to stop here, but thank you very much.
Thank you
for your thoughts and giving us the opportunity to ask you and to share them with us. So you've heard from Idris. Electoral reform is very important. We expect more citizens to come out and vote in 2027 because Nigeria belongs to all of us. See you next time on our State of the Nation podcast. Thank you.